Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Monday. It's April 4th. This will be our chart lesson for the day. And you can see, I wanted to show you the daily chart first. We had this spike in channel up, and it looks like we've corrected here and did get a break of this channel. That could be that we have a flatter, larger channel forming, but as of now, we're just going to play this as we got a break and we're looking for a new high, and it looks like we've headed that way. We got very overbought here, and you can see we relieved some of that. We didn't even get back to the midline yet, so we could get another leg down here before we try to head higher. My guess is we'll try to retest this high, and if we continue from there, we'll look for this high and then this high, and we'll see how the pattern forms up over here as well. So, but as of now, you can see we did relieve some of that overbought pressure, and looks like we're headed higher again. Uh, this looks like a little reversal bar. Then we got a follow through today, and it looks like, I mean, this is after hour stuff, so you can't tell much about it at all. But we'll see where that takes us to. So, but anyway, I wanted to show you that daily chart just so you can kind of keep up with how it looks on the bigger picture. And you can clearly see that there. But let's flip over to the 2000 tick. Okay, here's our 2000 tick chart. Pretty much a clear two-tiered channel here, and we were in the upper half of that channel all day. So it's a relatively strong trend, but you'll see there's not a lot of trades here today. We just did not get a lot of clear setups. Prices would go sideways and then shoot up, and then sideways and shoot. You know, you can see we went sideways here and shot down, and we just kind of worked up. We just had little spurts up and down, mostly up here. The bigger ones were up, but generally we didn't get a good opportunity to enter them. So not much you can do about that. You just have to take what the market will give you. The volatility has definitely slowed quite a bit. You can see that if you moved up to a bigger chart, you might consider going back to a 2000 tick chart now. But let's zoom in here and talk about these trades. 7 o'clock came just into this. There's actually a failed second entry long here. It doesn't trigger till up here anyway. And by that time, you could look at this as really a double bottom and a second entry short. So you could, I mean, you could also call this a triple test as well. So there's a lot of different reasons to like that trade early on. And you can see the triple test there. And notice how we made a lower high each time. And that's a pretty good sign that we're probably going to go lower. And that's, you really could call that a quadruple test because it's the same price level over here as well. You can see that right across there. And so I like that short. As long as you got room back to the EMA, I like that one. Then you make a new low and you get a first entry, and then you went higher here and tried to go lower. So that's a second entry short. That's such a bearish bar. You could probably go short below it. It's real close to the lows here. What I would probably do if I didn't trade this on the engulfing bar, because really the second entry triggered right when we broke below that bar. It broke higher, turned down. So what you probably should do is let this close, let prices break lower, and drop a limit order a little bit further up in here. I mean, you could have gotten filled way back up here on this bar. It's like, I mean, it's 19 ticks, which seems big, but compared to what we've been getting, it's a relatively mild bar. But you could have cut that in half almost, if not more, maybe, and then got a great entry here on a limit order. And then we just kind of dropped down here and chopped along. And of course, I drew the trend line off those last two swings just in case. This one is real tempting. It is a triple test, but you just got all that resistance and right at the EMA. I'm just not crazy about it, especially when it's the first break of this yellow channel. It's too big a chance it could turn back down on you. So I just don't like that one. We tried to come back here, and you don't get an entry here. You do get a technically your first entry and then your second entry. So technically this is a third entry, but the signal bar is no good and the setup's no good, and it just takes off and you don't get a chance to enter it. And then next thing you know, we're chopping sideways. There's no entries. There's nothing in there that you should try to trade. You do get an entry right here at the very lows. So if you got enough room to there, maybe you take that one. But generally, when you make a new low like that, I'd want to wait on a higher low, and you don't get one. So, and we just turn lower here. There is a little bit of a short trap here, but not a very good signal bar, and it's not a failed second entry or anything, so I can't see taking that one. This one, if the trend channel wasn't still in play, if we had a break in a new low, maybe you take this on the second entry, and maybe you take it anyway. But my guess is I would think we were heading back to this trend line. But we are way away from the EMA. The problem is you could turn up right here and get a little break and turn back down. But it is a second entry. The signal bar is pretty good, so maybe you take that one. But I would probably skip it. And again, you get a reversal here, but it's not a reversal type setup you want to take. And then we're just chopping sideways again. Once again, you do get a triple test here with a good signal bar. So if you got enough room, maybe you take that one. I wasn't sure about this one really, because technically early on I had this here, and this looks like this could be a failed breakout, and so maybe you're going long. We'd already pushed up there, but not convincingly enough to say, hey, we're probably going up there again. But once we went up there again, you have to figure that's your top of your range, and this is just a midline. And but before this comes up, it's hard to know that, and so it's a little bit risky. I marked it as a green one, but I'm not crazy about it. And we get the breakout here. Yeah, it's bullish, but it's too close to being a doji. Wait for a higher low, and you get that right here, and that's your perfect setup, and that's a pretty good move. You get a little breakout pull back here. I'm not crazy about that one either. I'd want to see this test this again, and finally you test it again here, but you don't get a very good setup. So you don't get a setup you could take. And then we run up here, and finally you get a second entry long. Again, I don't think I would wait and go long up here, although you probably could. But I like this one when it broke lower, then turned and went higher here. I like going long on that. You do get a higher low right here, but that looks too congested. That's 3 or more bars. This one has no body. It works, but it's not worth risking because you've already had a break at a new high, and the odds are you're probably going to this trend channel line, but you just don't know that. So you can't risk that. But then it comes back and gives you a triple test. I like going long right there. You still get a setup there. And you actually come back and get another test right here. This one, I mean, this is a very nice signal bar here, and it is a second entry, but there's not any room back to this high. And you see what happens. It turns down. You wouldn't have got stopped out, so but I still don't think you want to take that. It's just too congested, too many dojis or bars with no bodies really, all going sideways. Just stay out of that stuff. You'll save yourself a lot of heartache and losers if you do that. This one, I like this setup, but there's not enough room from the top here. The signal bar is good. It sets up off the lows, and it is a second entry, which we don't really count second entries in here. You're not trading on second entries or failures. I had that conversation with a trader the other day, and I'm surprised that he didn't know that. But the reason is because when you're in this, you get chopped to pieces on failures and second entries. You know, it can go up and down, failed second entry, and they all fail. And you just get chopped to pieces. So don't trade. But if you get a good setup and it turns out to be a second entry, then pay attention to that. But don't trade. You don't trade because there's second entries or failed second entries or anything like that when you're going sideways. All across here, don't try to trade that stuff because you'll just get burned. You have to follow the range rules. And if you get a range rule that fits our rules and you get a second entry with it or a failed second entry, then maybe you pay attention to that. But you're not trading failures or second entries or any of that. So you get a triple test up here, signal bar's too neutral. You get a lower high here, nothing again. And you really have a failed second entry short here, but there's not really enough room back, and that looks awful congested. But you really could look at this as a second entry. I'm sorry, a double bottom, and then you get a first entry, second entry right there. So if it breaks higher, it fails. But when this didn't break higher and creates that little 3 bar, it's really a 2 bar matching high, but it almost looks like a 3 except for that one little tick. That really scares me away from that trade. So instead of marking that as a reversal, I mean, that's the way I'm playing this, but I'm going to mark it green. Your hope is you get a higher low here with a good signal bar, but you don't. You got a bearish bar. And finally you get a break. And again, your signal bar doesn't qualify for anything down here. And you get a higher low. And again, no, not a very good signal bar. You get a reversal here, but it is playing off this trend line. But you got to go long late in the day at the high of the day. Not a good idea, especially since it's not off the EMA. And then we go through this choppiness again, and notice once again you got a triple test here. And this broke lower first and then turned up. You could trade that on the engulfing bar. I wouldn't have a problem with that since it's a failed break lower and it's a triple test. Waiting on this bar with that big of a stem and going along there, I'm not as crazy about it, so I marked it green. And you just don't get, and that takes us into 2:30, and you just don't really get anything else. Just not a very, I mean, there's a lot of movement today, and it's all up. That's great, but there's just not a lot of good trades today. So if you didn't find any trades or you struggled today, it's just because there weren't a lot of good entries. The good thing is, though, here's the key. If you're following the rules and trading only longs with the trend like you're supposed to, you know, you probably, even if you made a mistake, it all went higher from there pretty much. So as long as you didn't make a dumb mistake and break the rules, you pretty much, even if you'd taken some of these green ones or just made a mistake on your read, as long as you were buying with the trend, you probably were okay. Now, there were some sell-offs here, but generally they weren't, you know, the only reason you probably get burned is by counter trend trading, most likely. So anyway, I mean, that's pretty much it for today. I'm a little behind. I'm still a little behind with my email, and I haven't been able to get to the forum yet. I'll try to catch up there tomorrow. So if you're waiting on something in the forum from me, or you sent out an email and you haven't heard from me, I got close to getting caught up on emails today. So thank y'all for, people are usually pretty good about holding their questions, trading questions and stuff when I ask them to, if I tell you I'm going on vacation. So I appreciate that. It's very helpful to me, and it keeps me from coming back and having to weed through and answer questions that I can't even remember because I didn't watch the charts, and it just makes it harder to answer those questions anywhere. They're several days old or a week old. And so thanks to everybody for holding those questions and stuff and not sending me a lot of stuff while I'm out on vacation. But I'll try to get caught up in the forum here tomorrow. So anyway, hope you had a good week last week. I had a great weekend in the mountains, and weather was great, and nice to get a mental vacation. So glad to be back though. And I'll probably take a few more of those 3-day weekends here over the next couple of months. And sometime I'll probably take a nice vacation this summer. I hadn't been back to Brazil. You know, I used to go to Brazil every year, but I hadn't been back since COVID, and probably won't go back for a while. It's just too hard to travel out of the country with COVID and all. And it's just not worth the hassle, to be honest. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.